Welcome everyone to the Playwrights Guild of Canada's 2020 Tom Hendry Awards. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be bringing this special awards event online, because it means that we're not just in Toronto engaging our members here, but the entire country, potentially globe, if you will. But I'm here in Toronto. My name's Sokoloski, and I'm the Executive Director of Playwrights Guild. And here I am in Toronto at our PGC office, which resides on the traditional lands of the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Anishinaabeg, the Métis, and the Mississaugas of the Credit Nation. We recognize and respect all recorded and unrecorded nations who care for this land of Toronto, which means where the trees are standing in water. PGC is grateful for the opportunity to protect and care for the stories of this community, which is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to what comes of the entire week.
It's such a pleasure to once again be part of the Tom Hendry Awards. I'm not only the president of the Arts and Letters Club of Toronto Foundation, I'm also a PGC member. The foundation has sponsored the Robert Beardsley Award for Young Playwrights for the past 5 years. It's so gratifying to see that even during these unusual and challenging times, creativity is flourishing. The previous winners of the Young Playwrights Award continue to thrive in the Canadian theatre community, as playwrights as well as in other roles. Luke Reese, a former producer with the Obsidian Theatre Company, announced just last month the first ever award supporting emerging Black theatre artists in recognition of the legacy of Philip Aiken. Alexander Zonyich serves on our foundation board. Daniel Carter, general manager of the Paprika Theatre Festival in Toronto. And Julie Fan, whose play Fine China, a hit at the Toronto Fringe Festival a few years ago, was recently published. I look forward to hearing tales of continued success of these young members of our theater community, as well as of the achievements of the latest award winners. And finally, congratulations to all the winners this year.
Hi there, my name's Erin Shields, and what I would tell my emerging former self is not to worry too much about the gatekeepers, not to stress out about impressing artistic directors or trying to network too much. The most important thing is to really focus on the work, to write and cultivate the relationships with your closest collaborators, people who really understand what you're making, who you are, and what you want to be making in the future. Because it's those relationships, those projects that are actually going to put you on the path to making the career that you want to make. That's it, I think.
Hi, I'm Morris Panych. I was asked the question, what would I say to my emerging self? And I'm not sure what I would say. I'm not sure I would even like my emerging self. He was quite arrogant. I'd say don't be so arrogant. But he was also quite insecure. I think those two things maybe went together a little bit. And I would say trust your instincts and let others take the lead sometimes. Mostly enjoy what you're doing and going after it, and don't be afraid, because fear is the one thing that stops you from doing everything. And so that would be the one thing I would say is don't be afraid.
Hi, Kate Hennig here. What would I tell my former self? Pretty simple, really. Cultivate patience.
If I could go back in time, 30 years say, and meet my emerging self, I would tell her to only write the stuff she loves. Because when you love what you're writing, multiple drafts feel like play. And when you really don't want to write the article you promised for reasons you can't remember to write, it feels like sweating blood. So I would tell her that passion projects are the only ones that she's likely to write well enough to ever get put on or get published or get paid for. And I would also tell her not to worry about the market, because it is so changeable and unpredictable and nobody knows what's going to be popular. And in particular, I would give my emerging self the hint that she would end up having a bestseller based on a freakish premise, which no sensible person would ever have thought was a good idea. So all in all, I would give my emerging self a big hug and tell her to carry on enjoying herself.
And I've been asked to talk to my younger emerging self. What piece of advice would I give myself? So I brought my friend the owl with me because the owl symbolizes wisdom. We're supposed to have wisdom when we get older. Well, maybe that's true, maybe that's not. Anyway, thinking about where I'm perched now, looking back, I would probably only give one piece of advice to myself, and that would be listen to yourself. Girl, listen to yourself. That's all I would say. You can always consult later and collaborate later and discuss later, but you have to listen to yourself first. Listen deep, deep, deep inside to try to hear the unvoiceable thing that wants to come out. And you have to hear it in order to allow it to come out and spit it on the page. That's all I would say to myself, because I didn't really know that at the beginning. I didn't really understand what a playwright was or how to even write a play. I know a little bit more now. But I would say that to myself, and I guess I would I would say that to all the younger selves that I know, is listen. Listen. Thank you.
Hi, this is Norm Foster, and I've been asked to give my emerging self some advice. Something I would tell myself is, God, my face is craggy. Anyway, what I would tell my emerging self as a playwright, I would say develop a thick skin early, because you're putting your work out there to be criticized by anybody, from the critics to the public, anybody. It's open for criticism, so you have to develop that thick skin early on. They say that if you believe the good reviews, you should believe the bad reviews too. That's not true. No, I believe the good reviews, and I think the bad reviews are written by jackasses. So believe in yourself. That's what I would tell my emerging self.
My emerging writer self, I would say to my emerging writer self, first of all, come out, because I was closeted and gay, and my writing wasn't doing much until I came out. When I came out and I said, yay, I'm gay, I found my voice. So I don't know, maybe there's some other way that you need to find your voice. Maybe you don't all need to come out, but I would highly recommend it. The second thing I would say to my emerging self is you have to do three things if you're a writer. You have to read, you have to live, and you have to write. Reading and writing are pretty obvious, I think. Read books and write things. But living is another. What is living? Living's a tough one. Oh God, this is taking so long. Just don't just go to Acapulco, experience things. Don't listen to people who say you're not a writer. If they say things like that to you, then they're awful. Get your play on if you're a playwright, and just don't let a dramaturge touch it unless you want them to touch it, because it's you need to get it out there on stage. Okay, so finally, if you're afraid to write, if you're writing something and you think, hey, this is kind of scary, it's probably good writing. And finally, write as if your life depended on it, because if you're a good writer, it does.
I'm Sal, and this is for young Sal. In March 2001, I received a letter from Urjo Correda, who was the AD of Toronto's Tarragon Theatre. If you've never heard of the man, look him up. Correda read every single new script that was sent to him at Tarragon. He didn't always respond to them, but he did to mine. Thank you for letting Tarragon have a look at home movies and Shield to the Wars, both of which I enjoyed reading, deciphering, trying to imagine. You have a strong instinct for the theater, and the plays both present challenges stimulating and in some cases daunting. I really liked that. And then he delivered the golden punch to the gut. It was curious to read two plays by someone who is clearly a serious and gifted writer, and yet to acquire very little instinct of what your passions are. I didn't quite get the sense that either of these works had chosen you, but that they were, in a way, formal exercises, flexing your creative muscles. I hope that in the future you might work on something that you simply have to write, something intimate and perhaps too personal. I suspect that your work will make a startling leap with that kind of grounding. I like both these pieces, but I wasn't swept away by them. I didn't feel they ordered me around and gave me no choice. He nailed it. It was past time for writer me to trust this me as my most worthy source of inspiration. No one else can write what I can write. No one else ever will, even if they're inspired by exactly the same subject. We're specific and unique human beings, and nobody else can see through the lenses we see through. However, our lenses can shed light in a way that will sweep others away, order them around, and give them no choice. Take a risk. Dive deep. You are going to be so glad you did. Take care.
The Robert Beardsley Award is presented and funded by the Arts and Letters Club of Toronto Foundation. The jury is Mika Payne, Julia Lederer, and Yolanda Bonnell. Thank you, all of you. The Robert Beardsley Award celebrates a young person for the completion of a one-act play. Very impressive to complete a play, I think. It's very difficult. This is a really wonderful time to remember the importance of art education, especially as it's so underfunded and underappreciated in schools. These kinds of initiatives outside of school, so wonderful. They were there for me. We all have to work really, really hard to make sure they're there for everyone for years to come, because the voices of young people are essential, and letting them practice that voice is essential for everything about how our culture and our society is going to develop in the next however many years, next century. So I'm delighted to be a part of this. And the shortlisted nominees are Audrey Krieger-Potroff for Tragedy, a Comedy, Nam Nguyen for Caesar, and Michaela Robertson for I'll Miss You a Little. And the award goes to Audrey Krieger-Potroff for Tragedy, a Comedy. Congratulations, Audrey. Congratulations to all of the nominees. Congratulations to all of the people who submitted a play. Thank you.